I think we can start now. We have reached a good time to go, and here is us starting. 1, 2, 3, go. So welcome everyone to our webinar, our third webinar. We've been doing this back to back on Friday, 4 p.m. And today we are here to share opportunities for dentists post-COVID and how we can stay ahead. All right, so in this webinar, I'll be the host, I'll be the moderator, and I'll be presenting at some point. But with me to speak more and add more weight to this topic, I have Dr. Enoma Alade, who is a dentist. All right, so Dr. Enoma, welcome. She will be speaking on leveraging our skills outside clinical dentistry. And you'll be able to hear from her as a dentist, what she has done as a dentist, what she's even done now and made a greater impact in the healthcare sector by being the co-founder of the Anadach Group. And she's here to tell us how, as dentists, how the skills that we learned in dental school or by practicing as dentists, we can leverage on to make a bigger impact, you know, in our community, in the healthcare sector. So we need to be able to expand the box today as dentists. So it's me today. We also have Mr. Wale Ogunsola, who is a partner as Wyze Associates, who is one of the leading financial consulting firms, and he'll be able to tell us today how we can reach out financially, how we can mitigate some of these challenges that we've had, looking at the businesses of our practices, looking at the additional expenses that we're facing, looking at the time that perhaps we don't have now that we have to add some infection protocols in our, you know, our system. So he'll be able to share with us opportunities that we are not seeing. All right, so it's all about us thinking about, you know, where we can go, where we can reach out on, just to get to the next level. So Wale, welcome, and Enoma, thank you for being here and taking time out of your busy schedule. All right, so Wale is here with us. Enoma will be logging in from the US.
Thank you.
I know she was in Nigeria a couple of months
ago. Thank you, Dr. Amy.
Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Amy.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So without further ado, I'll pass on the mic to Enoma, who will be able to, you know, speak to us on how we can leverage our skills as dentists, you know, outside clinical practice. So Enoma, the mic is yours.
Okay. Thank you. I hope everybody can see.
Yes.
I'm trying to share my screen.
Yes, you may.
I hope I'm able to do this. Okay. Okay, let's try this again. I'm not able to do that, unfortunately. I will try this again and see whether I am successful. UI. Yeah, because okay, let's try this again. Because it doesn't seem to be.
Try again.
No, it doesn't seem to be picking it up.
Tell me, what email did you email it to me, or you can do this minute?
Yeah, yes, I emailed it to you actually. I emailed it to you. Yes, I don't know why it's not picking it up.
Yeah.
But I have it open.
Okay.
Right here.
Share with me. It's part of the technology and how we adapt to it. So tell me.
Yeah.
Your email.
Yes, my email is under dental webinar. Yes, I sent it yesterday.
Oh,
I don't want me to send it again.
On the dental
Yeah.
webinar, not
Yes. Yes, I did my Hotmail email.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, bear with us as we get this.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not picking up on my end.
If you have it, you can just resend it to me. I will.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can pop on my email.
Yeah. So we'll get started.
Yes.
Have you seen it now?
Refresh my network.
Okay, I'm going to send it again.
Yes.
Right now.
The worst come to the worst, we'll just get Mr. Wale to be prepared. But we should be.
Okay, I've sent it again.
Let's see if it didn't go to my spam, since I don't have your usual email. Mr. Wale, just get ready, just in case.
Here we are. Why it's not? Okay.
What is happening?
Yep. Do we have something on now?
Yes. It's correct.
Do you see a screen on?
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. I think we're ready to go.
We are ready.
Can everybody see it? Okay, we can ready to go. Okay, so I apologize for that. I guess I'm not the most technologically savvy. So I apologize for taking out some time. Starting off, Dr. Amy has rightly said, I'm a dentist. I did my first degree in my BDS in Ibadan, University of Ibadan, and then my DDS in New York, and an MPH in health management in University of California, Los Angeles. What is very interesting about it is I've always wanted to be a dentist. My first love is dentistry, and it's a very rewarding profession. I'm sure we have mostly dentists on the line, and I just wanted to just briefly give us an idea of our education. The average dentist has spent at least 19 years in training, and that's just to get to basic level. And then obviously if you do residency and specialist training, you're going at least over a year. So we're talking about 20 years or more on education training. So that prepares us for a lot. As dentists, we tend to underestimate what we learn along the way and tend to just focus on what we are trained primarily to do. So I just over as I was writing the slides, I was thinking about, what's the dental education training like? We all know it's very rigorous. It's very comprehensive. You're learning how to treat adults and children. You do so much time in the lab. Before that, you start off with anatomy, biochemistry, physiology, the dissection. So it challenges you in a different way, and different aspects and different skills are being developed along the way, which we're not aware of. It's going along the way. Then obviously compassion, because we know, majority of the population is scared of going to the dentist, but we have to provide a service which is necessary. Resilience, right from when you're in the lab, putting your impressions, your first impressions, how many times you have to retake impressions, how many times you have open margins on your crowns, but you go back and continue working at it, and that's the resilience that keeps us going. Then obviously manual dexterity, that's obvious. I'm sure you remember the first day you entered dental school, holding the handpiece was so scary. Now you can do it with your eyes closed. And those are things that, we develop along the way, and over the years, I'm sure after doing this, 20 years, you can actually do so many procedures almost with your eyes closed. Then we also look at work processes, from everything, right from, doing your first amalgam. Right from doing your first amalgam, you have to get your instruments ready, you have to anesthetize the patient. So there are different workflow processes which you already have, which is very critical, and it's, in other sectors, other aspects of healthcare is something that is really talked about a lot, about work processes. But I just thought about it in dentistry from day one, right from the first time you start clinical work in dentistry, from school, you're already learning about that. The next thing is time management. You know, your first filling, you do your amalgam filling for 2 hours, and then you realize, you know, have to work faster. So being able to do several things at the same time, 1, 2, and also in a timely manner. So time management skills, we learn it along the way. So then finally, you graduate, you're a dentist. There are skills you have developed, you know, excellent communication. You know how to talk to your patients, how you talk to your mother. Education, you've invested at least 20 years of your life into it. Practicing clinically, you're continuously educating patients. You have to continuously be on top of things because they have questions, new materials that come out, you know, especially nowadays where the internet is so broad. So your patients come with some pseudo or part knowledge of things. You know, you have to go educate them, make them realize this is right or this is wrong. So it's a continuous process of educating yourself. Then entrepreneurship, you know, in the good old days, you know, dentists, you know, and most of the time where you end up, you own your own practice. While you're in dental school, you don't realize it, but, you know, those are some things you develop along the way. How do I make sure my patient is happy so they keep coming back? How do I make sure I'm, you know, doing one amalgam right? I don't have to keep doing it and I'm wasting, you know, resources. So that business sense acumen comes in. Interpersonal relation skills. You have a dental assistant, you have your hygienist, you have your lab. So you have a team, you're a leader of a team, which you have to keep happy. And then you also have your patients and then also their family members. Problem solving. You have to know how to solve problems on the spot. You know, be it your lab, you know, doesn't bring your case in time. How do you manage or calm down an angry patient? You know, critical thinking. How do I do things better? Creativity. We don't realize it, but you know, it's a very hands-on profession. So we are working with our hands a lot. But there's a part of us that is creative in the sense that when I make, for example, I make an amalgam filling or a composite, you know, how am I make sure I'm creating it and I'm not going to destroy the occlusion and things are coming up right. So that creative skill, definitely. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay, because someone says no voice, sorry. Okay, so that creative skill is definitely something very important, which we definitely have. And then I mentioned about leadership. They're meticulous. We are very meticulous. We pay attention to detail. You know, as I was telling Amy a few days ago, in dentistry, 2 millimeters is a big deal. You know, for other professions, it doesn't really matter. But those are things we shouldn't take for granted and things that, you know, very important as we're trying to drive quality. Then most of all, confidence. You have to be able to talk confidently to your patients, you know, with your colleagues and even other professionals. And I think those are key things which we've carried all the way and which, you know, we can be used outside clinical dentistry and basically drive us in a different, drive us in the sense we're making impact on a different level and a different scale. So then my last slide here, I just picked a couple of skills which I just want us to talk about. And as questions come along, I'll be happy to go into details into other ones. So one key thing, for example, is problem solving. You know, we know COVID is definitely something that has shaken the whole world, healthcare. But one, we should remember we're dentists, but we're healthcare providers, basically. So we specialize and zone in on the oral health, but we're definitely custodians of care for our patients. So one of the key things is, as we're going back gradually into it, how do we identify problems and think of solutions from the problems? You know, data collection, you know, in your practice, you know, you might decide, see, okay, as you take history, how many patients give a positive history of COVID? You know, some timelines. So those are some benefits of research data that is information, which is important. As a clinician in your office, you don't realize that, okay, that's information which is useful because it's just me. But somewhere down the road, I will talk about it, but where that information and research detail is very key for other sectors and even for the dental profession. So as we go back, you know, making a habit of, you know, As you take medical history, your assistants can tell, you know, how many people came in this week and said they had COVID. You know, what were their symptoms like? It also helps you be able to manage the patient better, one, but two, also, how do you also use it to make your practice more impressive with that? One of the things that I've also learned from clinical practice and being a good business provider, and I'm sure Dr. Amy will say this, are patients like that, they enjoy those little extra personal touches you give, few extra minutes you give, you're collecting data, they're happy, they see this dentist really is interested in my overall health and not just my crown and my teeth. And, you know, guess what? You've banked a couple of more patients for life. So the next one goes about communication, share information on COVID. You know, as healthcare professionals, there's a lot of information going out there. You know, for us, we think is rocket science is basic, you know, it's basic. Wash your hands, cover your mouth, and things like that. But you'll be surprised, even educated people, the questions that they ask, you know, they're not very clear with it because, first of all, they don't understand, you know, they didn't do physiology, chemistry, biochemistry, so they don't really understand how it works. But as a healthcare professional, this is where we also, as I said, we're custodians of their healthcare. This is where we can actually step in and actually break down information to them. As a clinician, I'm meeting them on a one-on-one basis. They've not had COVID, they are fine, but okay, why should they wear a mask? What is the reason for wearing a mask? You know, for your patients, they want to know, you know, why is it important for you that they keep themselves healthy? So that's also where I think, you know, confidently you can also give them this information at their level and answer questions that they might have. Because one of the times we have, and I will tell you this, there are times when practicing dentistry over my last 25 years, I've had patients ask me questions that have nothing to do with dentistry. And I'm sure you have that. Because they feel comfortable with you, they feel connected with you, that whatever suggestion you give, even though we cannot treat that disease, but we give them enough information and encourage them for them to seek care. So just don't let's limit ourselves as the dentist and that's it. Your teeth are fine, your occlusion is fine, and that doesn't matter. But also going beyond that. Then I talked about education. You know, I don't know which dentist has not embraced education. After 20 years of practice, you obviously have embraced education. But let's, you know, within this COVID and post-COVID, let's challenge ourselves going beyond educating ourselves on just dentistry. It's good we have a finance person behind. Let's, you know, a little bit about a legal profession. Let's hear it, talk about ethics, standard of care, finance, find out information about finance. How do I run my business more efficient? And I'm sure Wale will be able to go into details about that. Manufacturing, you know, there are other sectors there who want to know much more about it, but we are the custodians of dental care. We are the dentists. We are the ones that know our profession. But if we do not engage and talk to other professionals, you know, it doesn't really grow. I remember, for example, I met a gentleman, he's in technology. He writes software. And one of the things he had said was, yes, we have all this technology which we can develop, but we need the healthcare partners to partner with, basically guide us on what to do. So with dentists, I know getting out of our comfort zone, interacting with other professionals makes a big difference. I'll give an example. My mentor in University of Ibadan, Professor Oke, she taught us public health. And I remember when she told us to go write a research paper. We all thought this was crazy because, you know, we didn't write research papers, it was read and do your exams. It was a big challenge. And she was like, I'm challenging you guys, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You know, fast forward, she took some time off. She was the director of innovation, University of Ibadan. And she said it was an eye-opening experience for her because she kept saying, she told me it was like, oh, I keep remembering I'm a dentist. And she said she remembers her brother telling her, you are so educated. You spend more years in education than other professionals. So if you think about it, we spent 20 years plus, even more educating ourselves, and we'll continue reading. You know, with that confidence, with that knowledge, You can read other things. It's not rocket science. Okay, we're not saying you should go and write a financial model, but there are things you can bring in as the custodian of your profession and basically drive your profession in a different direction. And you'll be surprised. People want to know. So that's why I think education is a big thing. Then the next thing I will talk about is the workflow process. I've said, it's in our DNA. We've been, we know protocols, we know procedures, bring your equipment out. That's something we do without thinking twice. So this is the time post-COVID, going back to revise your SOPs. What should we be doing? What should we not be doing? There's, things have changed forever. For example, I see, for example, now the airlines, when they start flying, they're going to start requiring everybody should start wearing masks. So definitely there are going to be changes in your own department, in your own practice. But now, and I'm sure Dr. Amy is going into details, is saying, okay, how do we change to make sure things are better? Ensuring your team members are aware of it, and ensuring also your patients are aware of why these changes are being made to ensure health. And also, even beyond dentistry, as I talked about, as we're interacting with our professions, there's no reason why, down the road you can work with other professionals on writing protocols. You might not know the details, but they are the basic framework that we have on, the scope, what I need to do, what needs to be done, and who checks it. So those are some of the things which I think we have ingrained in us as dentists, which we can definitely leverage down the road, post-COVID and further down the road to make an impact. Then we also, next thing I talked about was creativity and entrepreneurship. This is the time of innovation in business models, thinking about new service lines. They talk about telehealth, there's teledentistry. I know some dentists have already started doing it, but this is where now post-COVID, where, thinking about other services that might be important to your patients that they might value, things that, were not important before. But this is where I think creativity is important, and understanding, what value add can I bring to my patients at this point in time? And also which would, I'll piggyback on the next thing we're talking about also, is how, we've all lost income, but how do I create other services that the patients will pay for? For example, I was reading, I think it's in the UK, the US, where dentists are going to be, the insurance companies will pay the dentists extra money for PPEs. Those are some of the things where, we'll consider down the road. I'm not a finance person, but I'm sure Wale will talk about that. But these are some things we have to consider down the road as we do our services. Obviously, you cannot not treat patients using PPEs, but if for certain procedures that are within standard of care and they can be done by telehealth, teledentistry, and the patient is okay with it, and you as a professional can feel that, okay, this is one where we can go, it can reduce cost for you long term. So those are some strategies you start thinking about. How do I, provide services that I can still provide quality care, but also I can at least make sure my basic costs are covered, my operational costs are covered. So let's think, as I said, talked about here was meticulous, attention to detail. I'm sure Wale will go into detail about this. Go back and look at your numbers, look at your accounts. It's not going to be business as usual. It's not for the next 6 to 8, 9 months. Try and identify strategies. Where do you have to reduce costs in an ethical manner without reducing services, without reducing the quality of care? And basically, ensuring that you're prepared for the next round, which that will be. And one of the things we'll say is, it obviously came as a rude awakening shock, but preparing yourself for this, if something else happens, you are more prepared and you have acquired that skill. How do I deal with that crisis at that time? So at this time, I will stop. and at the end of my slides, and whenever it's, the questions coming, I will be right here to answer any more questions that you would have. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Enoma, for this presentation. It was very enlightening, and I'm here to say that, of course, you're a dentist with over 2 decades of experience, so you have put your hands, and gotten your hands dirty, if I may say, practicing dentistry. And then now you've moved to public health. And I know we have a couple of dentists in the house who are into public health. And beyond that, we know we have private practice, we have public health. And in between, we are here for, what you have highlighted is so key by reminding us how long we have stayed in school. And if we really have to look at dentists, which we are among the most educated people in our society, right? So spending so much time, I'm not even counting the times where the university were on strike that added even to some of our time in school, but we are the most educated, among the most educated in our community. And how can we ensure that we put that into practice beyond dental practice in the clinic as well? Let me just stop some videos here, please. If you are not among the speakers, you could please stop the video and unmute yourself. Thank you. So reminding us about some of the skills that we have, and the things that we learned in school. There are things that even beyond school we have developed as we were, practicing, in our various dental offices, or if we're in the public sector as well. So all these skills, how can we make sure that we put them to practice? All right, talked about resiliency, and this is one of the key things that we know will help us as we go into this new world, with the COVID. I'm afraid of even saying post-COVID, because this COVID has been here for so long that we're even thinking about it being part of us forever, okay, or for a long time. So we dentists, we know what we are facing when we are in our surgery, how we can also apply time management, critical thinking. You are there practicing, you are there, you've opened a tooth, you're planning to do just a simple restoration, and then you go, it's deeper than that, you have to move to a root canal. So can you see how we're used to changing, and taking decisions on the spot? So all these skills are what we have developed without even knowing. Time management, as you see. So how can we put all that creative thinking? Dentists are very creative, those leadership skills, and with us working within the confine of a tooth, which means that we're so meticulous, we have control, a level of control. So all these skills, as Enoma has said, is what we are looking at. How can we take these skills, adapt them into this new world? And this world would need more than ever people who are resilient, people who think outside of the box. So let's not limit ourselves within the box and the 4 walls of our dental, practices, so that we can help our community. And Enoma had shared with us, couple of things that we can do based on the skills that we have, and how we can, definitely apply it to do so many other things. You talked about partnerships. It's true, that people who are looking to develop things that will help us even more in our practices. But if we are practicing and we're not out there to tell people what we need to improve on day to day, they will not have specific data to be able to manufacture, develop, and find some systems that will help to serve us at the end of the day, right? So I think this is a great presentation to be able to tell, us dentists, how can we leverage on these skills that we have learned, that we know, that we have, okay, to be able to make a greater impact, all right, a greater impact for the community, for things that needs to be developed. But you talked also about business-wise, all right? We are working as dentists. We're working probably in a private practice or in a public sector. But look at other streams of income that are still related to dentistry that you can do that will help you in a way. So I'm not saying you should drop dentistry going into financial. We have Mr. Wale here that's going to tell us more. But how can you leverage on what you know best to develop other streams, help other people to manufacture things, all right? We are the people that need those face masks the most. We're the ones that have been using face masks. In fact, the image of anyone before COVID that had a face mask was the image of a dentist. Do we get that? It was the dentist that is known, you know, to have a face mask most of the time.
Yes.
All right.
So we are the kings of PPE.
We are the kings of PPE. Yes.
PPE. Yes, yeah.
It's been part of us. All right. So of course, now with the COVID, that accelerated the fact that other people are now getting into it. So who should speak? Who should be in the best position to speak about PPE here? So many people are manufacturing PPEs. Now, we should be associated with what is going on out there. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time for us to come out of our box, you know, and leverage on technology that is there, leverage our skills, and those two skills, technology, are what we'll be able to use to take, you know, things to the next level. So, thank you very much, Enoma. I will recommend that you send your questions as we go. We want to make this a very interactive session. So let's not wait necessarily for the end of the session to send your questions, more so as we know it's a busy time for everyone. Thank you for being here, for making this time. We also have Enoma that has another engagement at 5 p.m. So we have some senior colleagues in the house who are into public health. I can see you. So please, if you have any questions, you know, for Enoma, let's take a few minutes here to be able to refine and get some of this question. Enoma, you are the, you know, founder of Anadach Group. Can you tell us, just use this platform to tell us what Anadach does? Is it possible that you share with us? And what is it in your own case that being a dentist has helped you? So what is Anadach doing, you know, and what is it that, what skills did you acquire as a dentist that helped you to do what you do now and doing so well?
Thank you very much, Amy. Yes, I'm a founding partner of Anadach Consultancy. We're a healthcare consultancy group. We provide advisory services to healthcare businesses on improving efficiency, 1, 2, on expansion. So we do a lot of financial advice for healthcare businesses, both public and private sector. We also give a lot of advice to financial organizations who want to invest in the healthcare business. So we basically do like due diligence, letting them know what is in the healthcare space, what are the, and I'm sure I've had some of these terms, what are the operational costs? Is this business sustainable? Because many of the investors want to go into health, but just like how they would do in any sector, they want to know about the sector. And that is where, you know, healthcare people tell the picture. We paint a better and a truer picture of really what healthcare is. Getting myself prepared, I remember when I was doing my residency, my colleague had told me that, oh, you think I wasn't going to do clinical dentistry for the rest of my life? And I said, why? He says, oh, I see you're going to want to do something else. So when I was still working with one of the public facilities here in the US, I started a master's in public health, but was a heavy focus on healthcare management and healthcare finance. So I wouldn't say I'm a public health person. You know, we had to do some courses on public health for sure, but the more focus on the strength was basically healthcare management, improving healthcare processes, how to improve healthcare systems. And it was a general healthcare master's program. One of the questions I've been asked by other dentists, what was the jump over like? And I will tell you, it was seamless because it's healthcare. You know, we're not talking about cardiothoracic surgery, but it's healthcare, you know, understanding burden of disease, which we all do. understanding patient satisfaction, understanding operational costs, and there was quite a bit of general knowledge on accounting and finance, which, we'll take up along the way. If you all remember, after school, we all had to pass math. So as I said, we have so much of these skills already in us to prepare us to do it. I'm not saying everybody should become a healthcare consultant, but you'd be surprised how much we really, really know. And the jump is not that much. One of the things we have, it's also confidence. And one of the things we also know is, you know what you know, and you know what you do not know. What you do not know, you refer. Just like in practice, you're not an orthodontist, you refer to an orthodontist to get work done. Just like the same thing also, some basic limit, but then when you have to do more detailed finance, you call a financial specialist, like Wale you will call. For legal, you call a lawyer. So it's just basically understanding what your limitations are and knowing what you know very well. So it's something that I enjoy. I still practice dentistry. I have to maintain my licenses, both Nigeria and US, and also, keep your hands a little bit wet. I don't do it every day, but it's still my childhood dream, and I definitely would love to do much more work with dentists, because typically what we see with the dentists are like, nobody wants to give us money, or we are too small. It's not only the size, we also have to think about the potential. So those are things I would definitely like us to challenge ourselves as dentists. As we grow, you're a private practitioner, why can't we, with the right finance support, there's no reason why you can't have a group. You can't have 5 or 10, location practices as a dentist. Once you get the first right and right financials, and once you can convince the finance people that this business is viable, it can be done. So I will stop here, and in a nutshell, just talking about myself, I would like to take questions.
Thank you.
Any.
Thank you very much, Enoma, for sharing this. So we could see that, Anadach is doing great things. And a lot of time when we hear, some of these words in terms of processes and what big corporations are doing, we dentists tend to just go even more in our shells and thinking, no, we're too small. So thank you for reassuring us that, look, it's not about the size of your business. You might be one dentist, nurse, and receptionist business, as long as you understand, your numbers and your business is viable. So again, it's all about how can we make ourselves visible and get people to appreciate, right? So it's not about the size, it's the value we bring on board and how we can also grow. I had one of my a colleague from Uganda, Aisha, I don't know if you are here, but Arengaya, so she's based in Uganda, and she says that she would love her bank manager to actually be on this platform, to be able to see dentists, to be able to see the dentist perspective, especially as we have a finance person, telling us here today what we can do. Aisha, I don't know if you are here. We'll be glad to have you.
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Aisha, all right. You've unmuted yourself. I need to find you. Can you put on your video? Is it possible? So
it's been disabled.
I need to find you. Let me just find you and then make you a co-host. So thank you so much. I really would like to have your opinion. So we have some orthodontists, and Aisha is an orthodontist. Yes. Can you imagine? I was looking for your maiden name. So, all right. So Aisha, yes. I can see you. And all right.
1 second, I'm going to put the video on.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, the question has been, obviously, now that there's been a transition from COVID, and how do we transition from here? Traditionally, there hasn't been much finance in the way of banks actually supporting medical or dental businesses. Banks here are looking more and more favorably to supporting medical and dental businesses. And obviously the question is how they do it, because they don't quite understand how our businesses work. And so it would be interesting for us to get a perspective from what's happening in West Africa and how routinely, for example, a medical practice or a dental practice or a cosmetic practice can access financing, say for equipment, financing for expansion, financing for training, and then be able to build this into their budget in terms of being able to accommodate both the bank payments and also growth that comes with this kind of investment. So for us, traditionally, it's been you start small and whatever money that you have, you plow it back into your business. And yet, if you have a viable business, a viable practice, you should actually be able to inject money into it without necessarily waiting for whatever you have to be able to trickle back into reinvestment. So, yeah, for example, like Amy, I know you've got several satellite practices. You employ a lot of people. For us, that is difficult if you're only relying on a bit different and a pandemic for that to think out of the box, but this is where we are now.
Okay, thank you, Aisha, all the way from Kampala. I visited her practice, I think it's about 2-3 years ago. Time flies so much. And
yeah, about 2 years ago.
There's a couple of chairs as well, and you're doing great things there. Also involved in the university as well in growing, orthodontic specialty.
Yeah.
In Uganda. So well done, and thank you for sharing. So it's all about us, going beyond even the borders of our countries to be able to see what works for us in West Africa. What are they doing in East Africa? I have some logged in here also from Kigali, Rwanda here. So we'll be able to share and see what is it that is working from our own end that you can apply. But the whole idea is, as dentists, let's stop thinking small, all right? So it's not about necessarily growing and, having a lot of practices. No, I can be a single practitioner with a nurse and a front office, but I can look at that in a way that I grow and I add more value. So it's all about the value, as Enoma had said, and let's not think about, oh, who are we? We have a role to play. We have our seat, at this table, and all eyes as we go post-COVID are on the healthcare. Yes? And who are those that are even the most affected with this? Dentists. So this is an opportunity. How can we bridge that up and, take advantage of what is going on there? So I hope with the presentation we're going to have from Mr. Wale, he's going to tell us how we can I use that word, catapult ourselves, even using, the fact that the COVID has come to project ourselves to doing, even more for our businesses, right? So this is the time for us to reach out and get people to know, what we're able of doing, what we have learned to do, what we have developed our skills for. So thank you, Aisha, for stay tuned for the next. Mr. Wale, it looks like I have to bring you in.
Okay.
But, let's follow the program with me speaking next about what is it. And again, it's all about throwing some ideas at you so that I can refine my presentation. So stay tuned till the end. Make sure Mr. Wale is kept warm until then. All right, so it's going
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just my time. Let me just set a few things here. Remove the screen, open the right presentation. Okay, good. Just a few minutes. Let's open this. this. All right. This. I'll share my screen now, and we are good to go. All right, so if I didn't introduce myself, I will do that again. Let me go back to the beginning. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, you can.
Yes, it is.
All right then. All right, so my name is Dr. Binta Traore Shumbusho. Those are the four names. Some people have known me as Dr. Traore. Shumbusho is my married name. So we just keep it short by just saying Dr. Amy. I'm a passionate orthodontist and I love to design smiles. What I love, I have developed again, you know, after I left dental schools, we're talking about the skills here, is building processes, management. I love to look at problems and looking for ways to improve on these problems, all right? So this is something that I know I would like to do more. Of course, I'm still practicing, but I've found a way to even accelerate that, you know, with the COVID, that once we go out, you know, I would like to do more of thinking, you know, for the business, thinking outside, thinking even beyond the business for dentistry in general. So yes, I'm an orthodontist, but I've learned to do my orthodontist, but grow beyond orthodontist also as a smile designer. And beyond being a smile designer and a clinician is looking at the processes that we have around, you know, our practices and looking for problems. Sometimes I even see myself creating these problems just to ensure that, you know, I keep my mind creative as well. So I know I have some of my team members here, and they know how much I've said about, you know, coming out of your comfort zone. So my duty is always to, you know, shake people out of that comfortable position and getting them to do more, to do things outside of the box. So I'll be talking about reopening our dental, you know, practices and what will change. Okay. All right. Let's see. Good. So what will change? We know that. Sorry, I think this is jumped some slide. Not sure what happened. Sorry, permit me to go to another version of this. All right. I'll just go to another version of this presentation. So I know that as soon as we're in Nigeria, so I'm speaking for Nigeria, I know we have people, you know, across Africa as well. We have some people from Zambia, I think. And we know that in Nigeria on Monday, the 4th, the lockdown was lifted. And I'm really using that because this is how we saw things happening, where people just went out on the street as if nothing had happened, as if, you know, we were never closed, and things went almost as if it was business as usual. So I'm here to say that it's unfortunate because we are not taking the measure of this COVID, and there is much more that we need to know that we still don't know, and so much that we need to pay attention to. All right, so let me share my screen with this new presentation, and I should be good to go. All right, in the last, still looking for my screen, but I'll keep talking here. All right. Zoom share, okay. Share. Just 1 second. Let me get this, and then I will start speaking so I don't stop. Okay, stop share. Okay. come back. Share. All right. So I think this will come up. Good. So in the last presentation, I was able to talk about some of the protocols, but of course, I mentioned the protocols for running an urgent dental, center. And I believe those who attended the last webinar were able to get the presentation by now. Dr. Shumbusho shared her presentation, and I'll be able to share that with you. I was able to talk about the fact that once the lockdown was announced, we took a position. We had some recommendation from the associations to tell clinics to close. Okay, so we took a position immediately to say we are closed, but we want to ensure that we keep an urgent dental center open to be able to serve patients who we know who are suffering from dental problems, to ensure that they do not go if they have swelling, they have trauma, or they have some bleeding, severe infections, that they do not go into this hospital where probably they are busy treating COVID patients. We want to ensure that people remember that a dentist's skill cannot be replaced, all right? And some patients have actually been to some of these hospitals, given some medication, that as soon as they came to us, we had to change it. So we have to be able to play our own role and ensure that other people do not take our position. Because if others are doctors and they're open, they're in the hospital, of course, seeing some of this patient because, yeah, it's COVID. As dentists, what we love to see happening next time is many clinics coming together and agreeing on creating an urgent dental center that is run by several practices and not just, Smile360. So we open at a minimum, twice a week. Some weeks there were not many patients, but we were able to keep the communication going so people know that a dentist is not replaceable. If you can do without a dentist for 6 weeks or 4 weeks, perhaps when the lockdown is over, people may think that, hey, if I can do without you for this time, I could probably continue without you. So it's important that we take that seat at the table and we make sure that people do not have alternative to a dentist, all right? So that is one position. But now, on May 4th, the lockdown was, called off. We did not go back. We are closed. We are closed, and we are closed again for the next 2 weeks. Knowing what we know and what is happening in the country and how the numbers, are skyrocketing, we decided that this is not the right time for us to go back for several reasons. The number one was the fact that there is a limit to how much we know. I'll now run through my presentation, okay? So, of course, as I said, there's the fact here and that, about the COVID-19 virus and how it affected the world, and how we know very little about the virus. We know that most dental practices have been closed for a long time, but we don't want patients to get comfortable beyond the COVID, not going to the dentist. So this is a discussion for the future. But we know that the fact that we've been closed for a long time, we have some patients that will come out of this with some severe problems, all right? And we are going to be open. We should be ready to not only protect ourselves based on what we know, but also ready to protect those patients. And we have taken these two weeks where we're still closed to build our processes, all right? To ensure that once we open, we do not run out, all right, of certain materials. And we know everybody on the team. It's not just about me. And I tell you, that is a hard thing to do, to get people to do the right thing, even if when you're not there. So education, 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 all right? So we know that what the COVID has done is to make all the processes we had in the past, redundant, all right? So what is this new normal? What is this new normal going to look like, okay? So this is what we want to build together. We know that the flow of patients, will increase and their needs will increase, and we want to be present. All right, we'll be treating new cases, complicated, as I said, by the lockdown, but we also have our regular patients. We know that the patient habits also will be affected. They are traumatized. This COVID has traumatized, most of our patients, our community beyond Nigeria. Before they get into any health sector, they're going to think twice. And we have to be prepared to build that trust and, and still maintain them as patients. The patients, financial attrition of those patients, they have been affected. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are still going to lose their jobs. So we need to be aware of that. And I'm glad we have a finance person today that will tell us how we can mitigate that, because we still want to be able to serve them dentistry. We need to be able to, for them, beyond the health insurances, and I believe we'll have some questions as well regarding how do we deal with those health insurances. All right, I had a discussion with the president of the private dentist association, and there's some of this discussion that we have to come together to be able to form one board, because this is the time. The time is now for us to take control of our businesses and tell health insurances what we can do and what we can't do. So I support whatever petition, is coming up there. So of course, there's going to be high impact from the infection protocol to the way we run our practices and social distancing that we have to apply in our waiting room, social distancing that we have to apply in our schedule, because we cannot afford to have patients back to back, social distancing that we're going to apply in our treatment rooms, because we might be having to use one surgery and leave another one, fallow while the infection protocols are ongoing. So those are the impacts that we're going to have and we're going to see in this new world, okay? So we're talking about the infection protocol and how transmissive this virus is. We've talked last time about infection protocol. I'm not going to go over that. Cost of dental treatment, I'm glad we'll have a finance person here that is going to tell us the fact that we're facing a global financial crisis, in the world, and how, as dentists, what can we do? What can we do? We have increase in material costs, all right? The way we're going to set up our surgeries will be different. The number of patients we're going to see will be lower. So how can we stay?
I don't have to.
Okay, mute yourself, or have someone helping me. Okay, good. So let's look at this impact, and we have Mr. Wale that will take that part in terms of the income and the financial part. So to me, we should look at running a SWOT analysis of the COVID, knowing that there's some strengths here, all right? Of course, we're going to elevate the infection protocols, and those changes are not going to, we shouldn't look at changes of the surgery post as temporary. Some changes that will just be part of how dentistry works. We're going to update our protocols, and those protocols might be there. I mentioned last time how we were getting on a plane before, without taking out our shoes, going through the screening process. But now, coming into dental practice, there are things that will change, that will just be part of how dentistry should be in the long run. Why dentists and you are graduating now, dentistry is different from what you
don't know what I'm able to solve a case?
Professor, bye-bye.
Sorry.
I give you enough.
I need help with meeting.
They know what BS. They know what
is the difference? How many languages do you speak? A lot, Professor.
Okay. Good. So I hope you can hear me. I have to share my.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So it's some of the things we need to manage. All right, so let's look at opportunities. And with the finance person of Mr. Ogunsola here, we're going to look at the opportunities that, so let's be out of that fear mode and think about the fact that there are things that will happen, that this is happening for us, and there are things that we have to see and leverage on to move to the next level. All right, so we talked about the fact that opportunities are such as patients who will need even with bigger problems. It's opportunities as well for the HMOs, I've mentioned it. There are opportunities also for us to negotiate with our government regarding some palliative measures in terms of if you had some loan, this is the time, take advantage, So we need to know what is going on out there and leverage, on anything that can help us as a business or as a practice, okay? So of course we have some weaknesses in terms of time and the fact that there are limits or no guidelines, in guiding us. So some of us are logged into the British, Dental Association or the American Dental Association. Our association is doing its best, but we know that this is a gap. There is a gap. All right, there is a gap. I take responsibility in saying that. We need to be guided much closely and have more updated information. So what I've done as a personal level is to create opportunity webinars such as this and getting people to join in to be able to give us their expertise so we can learn and grow from there. So of course it's a new situation for all of us dentists and there are gaps in terms of training. We'll talk about that. The threats are here. It's real. The scarcity and the cost of PPE is one thing that we are all talking about in all our conversation. How can we factor this cost, in our services, There is competition, but the competition is not competition because of another dentist that is based, at the other end of the street. No. The competition is everything that is happening in the world. There's going to be scarcity of money and scarcity in people's mind where they're thinking about, preserving and doing the minimum, for themselves. So how can we compete, all right, against other things that are out there and people not wanting to invest, in their dental care, all right? I call it investment. We talked about the buying power, of course, that'll be reduced, and of course, the recession that is, affecting the whole world. So our focus will be, just 1 second, let me move this away. Just covering my screen. Sorry. So our focus will be in building protocols to protect ourselves and our team, and that is the focus. That is the focus, even before the patient, even before making money. And as I said, I take an example, we did not go and open. We're opening on the 18th of May, all right? Because the whole idea is when this goes down, because the curve is still, not flattened in Nigeria, we want to be able to come out when things are a little bit under control, right? And after that, we will still know that people will have to continue, with these protocols, but at least, we'll have taken time to educate ourselves, right? So we know that there's going to be concerns with time that we don't have because our schedule will not be, we can't continue booking patients the same way. And so there is going to be some management, at that level. I talked about taking some financial decisions to save our business, okay? So I know some people talked about, hey, why are we not talking about laying off of staff, as some of these meetings? Those are individual and independent questions that every single practice has to make. In our case, talking about employee, that is the last thing. There's so many other things, financial decisions you can take to be able to save money when you're not making money, all right? And trust me, the staff, you will need the staff. So that should be the final and ultimate decision. Of course, at this time, if you have some excess or you have some people that were not, you know, flowing with everybody, it's probably the time to cut the fat. But please, let's ensure that we keep people, especially dental professionals. We need to take a bigger seat at the table in the healthcare. So we need everybody on board. Let it be that that's your final and ultimate, you know, resource, you know, and that's my my position. So of course, be aware of what's happening outside and how can we gain patients' trust when this is over. Communication, 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 marketing, business development, social media is there, you know, depending on, you know, what's comfortable for you. See what are the lines of communication you have with your patient and see how you can do more of that. So how can we develop the new model of dental practice post-COVID? What are these new infection protocols we're going to use? And what are those protocols, okay, that you will have as part of your practice management, and they'll be there forever, okay? So I have some checklists that I will share. I wouldn't want this to be a lecture. I will share with you some of the checklists that we came about. But of course, before you open, even if you have opened, it is not too late, all right? We want you to think about, you know, some of these questions, you know, to ponder on, you know, as we go on. You are things that we need to understand better. We still don't have all the answers, all right? What are the products, all right, and procedures that are reliable? How can we boost our own, even, you know, immune system even beyond? Because we want to make sure that we protect ourselves. Remember, you know, how do you control dental office aerosols? Those are so many things, so many gadgets that are come up. Some very expensive, some simple. Just like Dr. Shumbusho shared with us last time, just a box, putting a clean film and controlling that, at least at a local level, all right? You know, we talked about why are viruses more of a concern than bacteria, you know, what are the type of disinfectant that we can use, you know, how can we properly use them, what are the personal barriers? Those are all the questions that you want to ensure that you have gone over before you reopen. It is not going to be business as usual, so please, take time to educate your team and go over all this, all right? So this will be shared with you. This is what we're applying, you know, what do we do 10 days before while we're even working remotely? What do we do when it comes to about 6 days before while we're working remotely? I'll go fast because this will be shared with you and you have time to if you, something that helps you to take from there. But I can tell you there's quite a bit of reading that's gone, you know, in putting this together. Have a checklist, you know, and run your inventory to be able to see what you have, what you don't have, what's still working, what's not working, especially for those who have been closed for 4 days. You'll be surprised, you know, when some staff come back to work, you know, there's some things that they may have forgotten, some equipment that you need to check that have gone, you know, not bad, but you want to ensure that you run a few checks here and there. So this will hopefully guide you in running that. Of course, 4 days before, what do I do? You know, and surgery setup. This is key. I was having a discussion with my team, and we talked about what we should have around the sink. You know, what type of bins should we have? What type of PPE, you know, should we have? And when do we don on the PPE? When do we don off the PPE and how? There was a video today where one of the team members was showing us, you know, how to even put the PPE, how to, you know, to put it off. Now, I'm sure you'll say, oh, there's so many videos out there that we're sharing on the group. We did. We read on it. We sat down. We shared with the team. But trust me, when you are actually doing it, you'll be surprised. We actually had that video. And at the time, you know, one of our team members who actually demonstrated, you know, we realized some of the gaps we have. So you will need so much practice, you know, because it's a new thing. We're not used to it, all right? So look at all that. Work surfaces, all free, the walls, remove your wall painting, you know, certificates. I know some of us have plenty. This is not the time to keep any certificates in the surgeries, you know, and any decorative items. X-ray machines, you know, protect everything. The dental chairs, use protect the chairs as much as possible. And what is even recommended now is to have chairs that have no spittoon. Okay, in our practice, we had chairs that had no spittoon for how many years now? And we had just new set of chairs recently. And of course, the doctors were like, yes, but when there's no spittoon, it looks like it's a half chair. It looks like it's not up to the standard. It doesn't look like, as if we're going for the cheapest version of the chair and all that. Well, for me also it works, no spittoon, okay? But for dental, and in our culture as well, a lot of patients stand up and they're like, where do I go? What's going on here? So if you have to invest in a dental chair, go with the one that has no spittoon, because that's just another source very close to you of infection. So those are some of the changes we're going to see. Door windows. We had a discussion today. We cannot do without AC, even though it's recommended don't use air conditioning. So what we have agreed is to use air conditioning when we are working, and as soon as we're done, we open the windows, stop the air conditioning, open the doors and windows to be able to let that room lay fallow. And the doctor can work from another surgery. So if you have enough operatories, this is what can work for you by alternating the spaces. Of course, this will be shared with you, so I'm not going to go into it. The PPE, we talked about it. We will share all that with you. The day before, what do I do? And after that, of course, you'll be open. And I would like to agree with Buckminster Fuller, who is an architect. He's a system theorist. I would love to call myself like that because I love to think about systems. And he's a designer, an inventor, and a futurist. He graduated from Harvard School, and he says that you never change things by fighting the existing reality. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. The change, to change things, you need to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So this is, for me, the takeaway for you to remember, this as you go in building your new practice. What can we build now that will make what we had yesterday obsolete? And this is what we need to have in mind as we grow building the new model clinic. So of course, at the reception, we talked about taking away magazines and anything decorative, ensuring that there's a screen, and that's why we're closed for two weeks, because we're building the screens for the reception. One of the treatment rooms actually has to change, especially the ortho bay, because we need to put more dividers, more separation. Now think about it, even your water dispenser has to go. If you had a coffee station, that has to go. It's not business as usual. This is real. This is important. Your chairs have to be, 1 meter apart, all right? And all these things have to be in place. I won't talk about what you have to do at the entrance of the patient, but we know that this patient, if they are not the patient, they should not come accompanied. That is, a no-no. And we are working to ensure that when patients come, they come for treatment. They're not coming for regular consultation where we say, so we're building a model where the day before your consultation is the consultation. So we actually bill you at that time, all right? So some question came as to, if I run an online consultation, do I charge? Yes, so if it's a patient that's already on your schedule that's coming for treatment, we run all the consultations ahead. So when he's coming, his time is as short as possible. He's coming for record and treatment. Just keep it in mind. The patient is coming for treatment from his car straight to the surgery, and the treatment starts. You take your records quickly, treatment starts. That's the focus. After the treatment, we're working towards ensuring that the patient even pays from the surgery. There's no cashier, what we used to call checkout. You pay from the surgery, all right? I visited a practice in the States that was applying that. They had POS in all their surgeries, and that worked for you. Let us know. I visited some practices when I went to India, and there was no receptionist. you know, they do things online and you come straight for treatment. Can that be the new model, the new clinic for you? Why not? All right, so let's be creative about the schedule. Things will change. All right, things will change, but I want you to keep in mind as you come out of this lockdown. You have been locked down for 4 weeks or probably more. You want to keep your practice, if you're in private practice, in mind in terms of growth. So ensure that you're not just seeing all emergencies only and people who wants to come when they want to come. No. Keep some spaces for new patients. Think about the growth of your business as well. All right? So ensure that you take care of emergency. Keep room for new patients that will take your practice to the next level. And of course, bring in patients who have outstanding treatment that needs to go along. So it's important that you respect that as you reopen. Otherwise, you may just be recycling patients and then 4 weeks have gone, 2 months have gone, and your income is pretty much, you know, at the same level. All right, so the team, we talked about those PPE, what to wear, clinical, non-clinical. It was part of the last presentation, so I won't go deep into it. Treatment protocol, we have some checklists, some things have changed. If you look at, you know, we're doing, using rubber dam for endo only. Now there'll be, the use of rubber dam will be extended to more procedures, apart from ortho. I'm glad, you know, as an orthodontist, I don't see myself how we can use rubber dam for ortho. Last Saturday, the Nigerian Association of Orthodontists organized an amazing seminar, and we had amazing presenters who talked about what will change in the orthodontic world. So a lot of protocols will change, but no rubber dam for orthodontists, I'm glad, okay? So just see what you have in mind and we can move on. So surgery layout, I've already talked about it, and just see what will change in your own field. And once you are open, you are ready. But the big focus will be on your team, all right? On your team and yourself to protect yourself, all right? And keep that education going. I tell you, keep auditing what they do, all right? It's not as easy to move into this new world. But this is something that is serious enough for us not to ignore it. We know we have been locked down for many weeks. We know that we have lost some money, but the revenge, the best revenge is massive success. I will agree that with Frank Sinatra as we go ahead. Keep in mind, you know, your practice and see how you can grow from day one, all right? Don't just go in as if it's business, you know, as usual. You need to be very, very strategic. So this is my advice to you. And as Martin Luther King said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. So let's leverage, you know, this moment and see how we can take ourselves to the next level. So thank you very much for being here and listening to my part of the presentation. Send your questions with regards to what you want to know from the reopening, what you've done. Please share with us your experience, all right? If you're open already, what have you done, you know, to be ready today? All right, that means you're ahead of me. You should be sitting here. All right, if you have not opened, you know, there is the possibility of you doing this as work in progress. Yes, it is an option as well. But let's share our experiences as we go forward. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to ask Wale to come on board while I take a few, look at a few questions here, because we'd like to make it quite an educative one. We kept the best for the last. I know Enoma had to leave, so we will extend some questions to her if, you know, you have more questions. Okay, so I think Wale, perhaps we should listen to you. Let me just see if we have.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Eme.
welcome. We could take the questions together there.
Okay, no problems. All right, so we'll do this quickly. I'm trying to share my screen. Is it sharing? Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Amy, and thanks to Dr. Alade. In fact, now I know that dentists they are more than dentists. I can see a number of things required for this COVID situation, for the crisis at hand, were actually taught, to dentists during their undergrads. She mentioned resilience. She mentioned problem solving. She mentioned leadership. She mentioned protocol, writing, processes. Now, these are the kind of things we're going to also touch as a way of coping during and after this COVID situation. So I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
All right. So we're here. The good news here during this crisis is that dental revenue is not lost but deferred. So that means that dental revenue is not like the money that should have spent at the eatery, food not eaten today, is gone. Our procedures not done today are likely to be delayed. They're going to be done down the line. So that's, something, good for the dental space. It means the revenue is delayed, but we always roll it. So how ready are we when the economy opens up and the revenues are coming in is what we need to discuss. So we have, actually my screen is serving me. 1 minute, please. So if the healthcare sector generally is been seen as less affected, less negatively affected, I'll put it that way, just in the same space with technology, telecoms, media, and a few other sector or industry. So it's another good news. Healthcare space is not completely or adversely affected, but we have some few challenges. One is that hygiene revenues may be affected for the dentist. Demand for elective procedures may decline during this period. So you're not going to say people, if they have options, they won't come and get the procedures done. So during this period also, eventually a lot of them will come back. That will be disruption, to supply chain. Most of the manufacturers now are focused on preparing or producing for COVID situation. So it may affect production of medical, dental items required. Cost of dental care may increase. Yeah, Dr. Alade and Dr. Amy alluded to that, because now dentists may need to wear more PPE, additional PPE. So we need to have in mind, chances are that cost of dental practice may go up. So we must have, in place a mechanism. We must be creative about how we're going to take care of that. Why not still making dental care prices too high? COVID will leave us with some things here, and we can know that. It will leave the industry, the healthcare space, dental practice space, with few things. We begin to see portability of medical records. Now we can say that when someone dies in Kano, we know in Lagos, so records are getting digitized. We're getting more records. So big data is coming to play in the healthcare space. Now we know that, yesterday we can say, 190 people died in so state or so community. That's one of the things that COVID is going to leave us with. It's going to leave us with in a data-driven healthcare space. When possible, patients will not want to visit hospitals. So you're going to see a situation where they want to visit doctors' offices. So, a small clinic where they know the doctor is not doing surgery or it's for consultation. That's going to be happening. And people, are going to also be looking at diagnosis. They want to speak to somebody remotely. So they want to come in only when it's necessary to come in. So that is going to happen. We're going to see remote diagnosis. We're going to see big data impact. You're going to see portability of records. You're going to know what this patient has been doing. So patients can come from Oyo State and needs to receive Medicare from a dentist in Lagos. The record of that patient may be readily available. Those are some of the things that COVID is likely to leave us with. We're talking about crisis. Yeah, COVID, the pandemic is a crisis, but we've had so many crises. So my point, there is really no panic. There should be no cause for alarm. Crises are always terminal. They will come and go. And this may not be the last. This will not be the last. So the current pandemic is a crisis. Stock market crashed, severally. That's crisis. Bank distress happened in the past. Flood, natural, disasters, they are all crises. Insurgency, they are crisis. Loss of key man can be a major crisis. One just happened recently. A dentist, I think some days ago, happens to be my uncle, died of COVID-19. So I don't know what's going to happen to his practice. Depends on what structure he has in place. So there's been so many crises. Recent example of crisis, we have the 2007-2008 financial crisis. We had the 2009-2010 Lamido crisis in Nigeria, the banking crisis. 2016 was a FX crisis period. Dollar went from I think less than 300 to 500. That also was a major crisis. We have the ongoing crisis in Nigeria, Boko Haram, Herdsmen, Data militancy. These are crises. So the point is, crises will always be here. They've been here, and it will continue to be around. So the message is, how do we navigate, through current crisis and future crisis? That's what we need to look at. That's what we've called, vaccines that dental practices must take in order to navigate crisis period. So we'll say we probably have three kinds of businesses. You have the ones that are vaccinated, not vaccinated, and partially vaccinated. I will try to explain that. There are three main types of vaccination we're going to discuss. Cash flow management, that is your multivitamin that should be taken every day for survival, to keep alive. It is when you have secured your survival that you start thinking of development. So the next vaccination is institutionalization. We'll get to see quickly what that means. That's when you're beginning to talk of development. And that one, I'll say that one is like taking anti-malaria, so you don't get malaria. The third is reaction protocol. That is like you use multivitamin, you use anti-malaria, but if eventually you got malaria, you're going to have to take some IV injection or something. That's reaction protocol that we also look at. That's revival. What do you expect? So we're looking at things from three perspectives: survival, development, and revival. So we'll move on. Let's quickly look at survival, cash flow management. In the current situation, because we're in a crisis period, it is important for practices to define quickly their cash flow requirement, their cash requirement. You need to run scenarios. How much cash do we have? How long can the cash take us? What is the gap? Can we secure credit line for this gap? If we can secure credit line for this gap, we have to secure it now. Not it down now. If it is equity injection you need to get, you probably need to go for it. So as quickly as possible, it is important to have a clear view of the cash flow scenarios. You can have, case 1, case 2, case 3, best case, worst case, or mid-case scenario. Know the cash flow requirement as quickly as possible. Once you know the scenarios also, it is important to execute on them quickly, right? Quickly execute on your cash flow. Spend only on essentials. You can defer whatever you can defer. Negotiation, you can push back payment of what is outstanding. You can negotiate with suppliers. You can negotiate with the bank. So look, this is what we want. Seek moratorium with the bank. You want to cancel or negotiate, existing contracts. It depends on the value you're placing on there. You can try to cancel them. You can try to negotiate them. It can be rent of the practice office that you want to negotiate. Walk to the landlord and say, look, in view of current crisis, we cannot pay you $1,000 again. We need to start paying $750. This is the reality of our business. So this, has to be done. We need to improve collection. Everybody, thank everybody here, we're all in dental practice. You know, collection, especially from HMO, is something that affects practices. It delays the cash flow of dental practices. So we need to improve collection. We need to dispose assets that are not required, that we are keeping around the practices that are taking space. Maybe we have 500 square meter space. If there are assets, occupying space that we can dispose of and reduce the practice space required, may end up in 200 square meter. We need to also say that. And we need to communicate this cash flow to our bankers, to our shareholders, to our employees. Let them know the situation, the cash position of the business. So that is buy-in. We need to have a buy-in there. So, and let's talk about business administration. So that is something we need to do quickly. As we are in this crisis. Sorry, we seem to have some distraction. Yes. Okay, so that's what we have to do as quickly as possible, cash flow management. We need to then, once that is in place, we then move into what I call institutionalization, right? We need to get to a point where, and I love when Dr. Amy and Dr. Alade mentioned protocol writing. This is going to speak more to that process. You need to build a system. We need to have a system in place that takes care of the next crisis, that makes sure we are immune, we are protected, or we are ready to face next crisis. So like tracking performance, you need to have intelligence about your practice, how many patients we have on a monthly basis, what's the average time spent per patient, what's the average, what's it called in data, what's the average fee per procedure. We need to track performance. We need to have record. We need to build record. So that helps us understand dynamics. Is that a slightly factor? Excuse me. So you want to check, is that a slightly factor in your practice? Do you have more people during summer, or do you have more people during winter? Are people traveling? You can always track this by keeping track of performance. We need to increase level of transparency. This is you building an institution. You see, you have a practice. It is a practice. When you begin to have some things in place, your practice becomes an institution. And it is only institutions that outlive people, not practices. Most practices go with the founders. But once you build your practice into an institution, then you are protected. Even, crisis. So that's what we're, that's what we're looking at there. Increase level of accountability. You've done that. Then you can start putting some governance structure in place. That is what is going to bring sustainability to the business. You've got governance in place. You probably have, an advisory board. You have, a team that you bounce things by. this is the anti-malaria for the next crisis. This is what you need to prevent impact of or to manage impact of crisis. At that point, by the time a business begins to have some level of governance in place, you begin to see the need to hire professionals to fit certain roles. You begin to have the right person in the right places. Now you are gradually building an institution. And it is really not about the cost of building the institution. It is how we go about building the institution. Dr. Alade mentioned creativity has been taught while dentists were in school. So it is about being creative about this is what we need to take on. We need to define performance-based incentive. We know, naturally, I always use this example for this. The moment you begin to take count of scores, you begin to count scores in any game, either football game or table tennis or lawn tennis. Once you start counting scores, the game changes. That is the same thing with business. Businesses are game. It's the same way. The club with the right team always win. So, and they win because people know what they are playing against. So you need to define properly a performance-based incentive for staff, for employees, even for the founder. So this is going to push people. This is going to make people start seeing beyond the current situation, start being proactive, start thinking what can happen tomorrow. And you can begin to have proper structure around that. You need to then, at that point, once you have that in place, you already have people's confidence. Then you can enhance your governance level. You can decide to have a proper board of directors or a board with an external party. Now, you can start your governance with a board that's just family and friends or something like that. If you want to then introduce into it, at that point, the moment you have good performance management system in place, you want to introduce enhanced governance, where you have like what the corporate call independent director on the board, just to give you an unbiased view of what the business is doing, of how you are running the practice. Yeah, the practice will bash the medical director or the dental director. They will bash you. They will say, no, this is right. This is not right. This is this. People will leave the board meeting and not be happy for the whole day. That is fine. But that is you building your practice into an institution, right? Then at that point, you begin to see the need to automate your processes. And this takes the flow naturally. The moment you have enhanced governance, the board begins to ask for some report, some data that you need to produce almost immediately. And a scattered system will show that, look, we can't get these things ready. So the practice begin to think of how to automate. If, the practice has no, for instance, accounting, software, they begin to think of, because we have a board meeting coming up every quarter, or is it every month, we need to get our financials ready as quickly as possible. They want to automate that process. The board wants to know how many customers do we have, what is customer satisfaction level. We don't have it automated, but the board is asking for this. We'll begin to make that also in place by automating it. So once you get to the point of enhanced governance, you begin to think of automation of your processes. You begin to measure and monitor performance more. You define performance when you were starting your governance. Now you begin to monitor governance as they go. You begin to now see, because you are creating an institution, the business is getting bigger. You may begin to think of diversified funding. Aisha from Uganda discussed financing, getting financing. So the issue of getting financing, we'll get into that quickly. But I want to quickly point out there that most time, experience has shown that small practices don't get financing, not because they are small, but because they don't have, we term this, they are not bankable. And when you say a business is not bankable, half of the time, excuse me, half of the time it means they don't have, I'm saying it is not an institution, or is not timely. It has no prospect of becoming an institution. And the bankers, not only bankers, even equity investors are not very comfortable with that situation. Because first, that we all know, that shows key man risk. If the owner of that practice dies, that's the end of that business. So it gets difficult for a banker to put money behind that. But when the banker can see through your business, can see that you are in the process of building an institution, or you have even institutionalized your practice, no matter how small, it's not about size, it's about the content of that practice. It's about the value the practice has built into itself and determines how, easily it can access fund. So, at that point, you begin to see diversified funding. Then you want to optimize your processes. You may not have the best ERP at the point of starting. You get to a point where you find out, okay, at this point, I think we need more information. And you know one thing about data or information, giving people information is the more you give people information, the more information you give people, especially the board, the more they're going to ask you for. And the reason is very clear. The more you give them, the more insight they have into the running of business. Then the more scenarios they can run in their heads. And they begin to ask for what if, can we have this? And it's not punishment, it's just building resilience, which also is the first thing, Dr. Alade mentioned in medical school, or that's one thing that dentists learn in school. You go through a procedure severally, that's resilience. These things the board will be asking you for, they are not punishment, they are building resilience into the business. Right there, at that point, you begin to now look at implementing governance best practices. That is governance at its peak. It gets to a point where you have totally separated the founder, the owner from the business. The business has become, the practice has become an institution that can run after. And I've seen cases like that. I remember there used to be one May Hospital, since we're discussing healthcare here. May Hospital started from a small flat, Dr. I think Awode or something, was the man's name. A small flat, but gradually built the system, put system in place. They got a point where they had a ball. And they bought a massive hospital somewhere. The man passed away, but the hospital is still running till date. And there's been so many cases like that. And I've seen cases on the other side too, where a founder built, the business at some point. But the moment the founder passed, the business crashed. That is one I always feel sad when I pass through at Ibutemeta, Apa Road. What's happening? Ajayi Memorial Hospital. Used to be a big healthcare practice those days. I know a number of my cousins that were delivered, they were giving birth to in that hospital. But today, the moment the owner passed, that was the end of that business. The structure remains. The business is gone with the owner. So that's, those are the things we need to start looking at. Because this crisis, this pandemic has opened our eyes to things that can happen. And the best thing we can do is to build resilience into our practices. So that's about the second side I'll look at it from. And I'll go to the third one, is reaction protocol. Now, when crises come, if you have proper cash flow management, you have built resilience into your business, you have institutionalized processes and procedures, which you call protocol. They've been institutionalized in the business. We know a way of tracking performance. By the time we have done those, when the next crisis comes, it's not about how we react to it. We need to have an idea of how to react, right? And we should just react in a way that we must first understand that every crisis is terminal. It has a start date and there will be an end date. Sometimes what we don't know is a clear picture of how long it will take, but we can always forecast it. So there must be a time horizon saying, okay, this is going to happen for the next 2 years. For the next 6 months, what are we going to do? 6 months after, what are we going to do? Next time, what are we going to do? So, excuse me, for convenience, we can divide, that time, frame into 3, which I've just called the time when you rescale your business. When the crisis comes, you have to adjust your business. You have to make some hard decisions, right? That time frame can be 3 months, can be 4 months, can be 5 months, depends on your view of the crisis, depends on how you think the crisis will be around for. The next level is you have to reposition. Because that rescaling is the point where you need to survive, is the point of survival. How the business is about is, let us keep the business alive. It's not about profitability, it's not about growth. You're not taking growth at that point. You just want to be alive. When the business passes that stage and it gets into a position where we say, okay, now we have survived. How do we adjust to this new norm? That's what we call repositioning, right? You want to ride the boom. This crisis now has opened up tele-dentistry. How do we key into it? This crisis has opened up us using additional PPE. How do we cost it? How do we recover this cost from patients? This crisis has shown that having a clinic in VI, you can actually have patients as far as Abuja and attend to them. How do you key to that? That is the point you begin to reposition. I mean, how long will you do that? You cannot be repositioned forever. You have to reposition, then relaunch the business by reinventing your business model. Because, I mean, especially this COVID-19 is one of the crises that has come to change business model, that has come to change the way we do things. It is not business as usual. It will either drive down costs or increase costs, depends on the industry we're playing in. So we need to say it, we need to have time frame for that also. And once you establish your time frame, right, you then need to have some focus areas. What are you focusing on? Examples are workforce. You need to look at your workforce and the focus area, the customers, your suppliers, your fund holders. You need to look at your cash management as focus area. You need to look at the operations, the clinical operations as the focus area. Then your brand is a focus area. For each of these focus areas, under each time frame, time zone, you must have objectives that you want to achieve. You just say for workforce in 3 months, excuse me, for workforce in 3 months, we want to achieve this. For workforce in 3 months, to achieve this objective, we need to execute this kind of project. And this is how we're going to monitor progress. So that's what I see as the reaction protocol to crisis. So we've discussed survival, we discussed development, and we discussed reaction protocol. So I will show us sample. I have a template here which I can pass to Dr. Amy to share. This is actually a simple template of a reaction protocol, which shows time frame. It's showing here rescale, reposition, and reinvent. I put a time frame to this, say May to August, September to December, and maybe Q2 2021. What do you want to achieve? You want to keep the business alive under rescale. When you rescale, you stabilize the business after lockdown. Then you adapt to the new world. All this, you have to put them within a time frame. What do you want to achieve? You know, that is, I mean, the scaling, excuse me, the time zones we have created there. So once you have done that, you can see on the left side here is where we have the focus areas, or you call them strategic perspectives. You know, you have workforce as a focus area. For each time zone, you state objective, you state project that must be executed to achieve that objective. You know, most time objectives can be vague, but when you begin to attach project to them, you begin to see the reality of that objective. You begin to see the possibility of bringing that objective to reality. When you begin to measure the objective using certain indicators, what must have happened for you to know you have accomplished this objective? Then they're getting closer home for you. So, I mean, this is just a template, and I can show, excuse me, next to it, a sample of something just to guide us. This is a sample reaction protocol. For workforce, you say you want to, this is, I mean, probably from my friend, you want to do, well, the objective here is not showing here. Sorry about that. I can take cash. The objective, which is this slide, the objective is keep optimal cash position. You can see that is vague. It is vague. Yes, I agree, but that is your objective. At any point in time, you want to have a cash position that is optimal. Optimal can be relative. depending on the time you hire or depending on the size of your practice. Optimal can be, I want to keep enough cash to take my operations for 6 months, even without revenue, or at the level of revenue I'm forecasting. So what am I going to do? Next to that is a project I'm going to do to achieve that. Is to develop cash flow scenarios for the near foreseeable period. That's a project. If I do this, then I'm going to see clarity as to if I'm keeping optimal cash position or not, or how to keep optimal cash position. I'm going to improve cash collection. It is a project I'm going to do, because once I prepare this scenario, I will see where the cash gaps, falls are. Then I know I need to probably improve cash collection to make that up. How do I measure? How do I know if I'm making progress on that objective? I can start tracking. For instance, cash coverage for 6 months is what I want to have. So I know every point in time I want to have cash coverage for 6 months. That is like an indicator. Once I'm doing that every month, then I know, excuse me, I know I am doing well on that objective. I can say 0% delay or wrong invoicing, because I want to keep optimal cash position. The system, the policy of the business is there must be no delay. If an invoice must go out on the top, it must go out on top, corrected, or correctly sent, no rework. So that can be an indicator. We are tracking out of 10 invoices we have sent, how many did we have to rework? If not, then we know we're tracking ourselves. So that's the way I would define this reaction protocol. And I can send a template across to the group, to Dr. Amy. She can share with the group. And if anybody needs assistance putting this one-pager together or one-page document together as a template to plan maybe the next 12 months and how you want your practice to react, we can share that. Also on the other one, on institutionalization, I also have another material on that we can share that goes through all these steps listed here, what the business or the practice is expected to put in place as you navigate this listed item. They are steps in creating an institution, and they have various tasks under them. Now, as you tick those boxes, you are building resilience into your practice. So I think that will be it from me. Because of time, after Dr. Alade spoke, I realized there's a lot that we could have put into this, because she really mentioned a lot of things that were quite relevant. But I know we have limited time. So we can, if there are questions, I can always, take that as we progress. Thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody. Thanks, Dr. Amy. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ogunsola. Wale, thank you for sharing. As I said, Wale is a consulting partner at Wyze, which is one of the leading financial institutions. And of course, they've been giving us support. And of course, it's because of the results we've seen that we recommended that, he comes to be able to share, what it's possible. But of course, I want us to focus on one thing, is the fact that surveys have been running to know what has COVID-19 done. Now we know that the COVID, we're not talking post-COVID. COVID is here, and especially with us in the healthcare. But what it has done, it has almost changed priorities. And businesses will be wiped out of this planet forever. Some businesses that were probably not priority have come forward. So the healthcare, we know is one of the areas that people want to invest the most. So we as dentists should look at ourselves as oral health care professionals and ensure that we, take a seat, as I said, at that table. Now we know that the focus being on the healthcare, but even more, we know we have talked about public health today with Dr. Enoma being here and telling us about what we can leverage on, from the skills that we have learned in dental schools, from things that we are doing as we're practicing every single day to do better, to do good, and to do things around for the community. So we also know from some of the research that have been going on that what can save the healthcare is the private sector, right? So I'm not saying that the public sector is not important, but there is a lot of emphasis on the private sector to be able to do better. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know, resources that will be pumped into the private sector. So looking at us as a business is something that we need to do more than ever. If you have invested in buying one mirror, I'm not even talking about a dental chair, you know, as a dentist, you are in business. So the game is on. So it's not time for us to be shy or not just running our businesses with the best of the knowledge that we got from dental school. Someone on the chat, you know, said that, yes, we need to have entrepreneurship and talking about business, you know, in dental school. I agree. I didn't have that training. All right. So in as much as I did a bit of training and attended, you know, dental business seminars and, you know, running a consultancy group, which we are going to launch our platform, our mastermind platform to be able to look at dentistry as a business. You know, I know that surrounding yourself with professionals is one of the things you want to do. And looking at your finances is one thing that if you didn't do, that the COVID would have accelerated the process. If you did not know your numbers, you won't be able to survive, you know, this period. You need to know your numbers more than ever. So you know that, I mean, for example, we looked at our P&L for the month of April, right? I knew that for April, okay, we ran an urgent dental center, but compared to the month of March and February, we did, in March already, we did 50%. We already felt the impact, you know, of the pandemic already in March. We did 53% less than what we did in February. That is in March. In April, we did 1%. We're only able to achieve 1% of what we were able to do in the previous month. Without data, without numbers, how can you even know how to position yourself, right? Without you knowing your numbers, how do you know how much I can keep paying my staff salary for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? How much reserve do I have to tap into to keep my business afloat? All right, the whole idea is us thinking beyond us. As Mr. Wale has said, it's the reason why some of these banks are not, you know, considering giving us loans or, you know, because we tend to think as me, the dentist, everything begins and ends with us. So let's ensure that we're able to go beyond that human risk, you know, and putting structures, yes, putting structures in our businesses so that, you know, people can appreciate the value that we bring on board, and we know that those businesses can outlive us, right? So let's look at, you know, our, the focus is on private sector, focus is on the healthcare. We are on the healthcare. Those in the private sector, this is your time. Those in the public sector, you are a dentist. Remember we started by talking about those skills that we have. We started by talking about how we can leverage the skills in even other sectors, how we can build some partnerships. There's a lot of public-private partnerships, you know, so we need that collaboration, all right? We need that collaboration beyond us dentists, you know, within the healthcare, we should do more, working with manufacturers to be able to do more, you know, that can even serve us. So let's expand. The whole idea of today's webinar is for us to expand beyond that bubble, you know, of us as a dental professional. Now, what I shared by talking about the reopening, what will change? We know that COVID is here to stay. Of course, I did not focus on sharing some of these gadgets that will help us here and there. I introduced myself by saying that I'm passionate about thinking about the problem and coming with things at the strategic level, right? What works for me may not work for you. What works for my practice, our practice in Ikoyi, in Lagos, doesn't work for us for the practice in Abuja. Because in Abuja, they have a limited space, but they have more time. It's a new practice. So they don't have the flow of patients and they have more time. In Iko, you will have more patients, you have less time. So you want to have tools that you can use to adapt and see what works for us. So it's more about a strategic discussion and giving you what is it that the impact will have, you know, on the economy in general as healthcare. What's the impact on dentistry? What are the opportunities that we have? All right, so in talking about the new model of dental practice, we know that it will affect from the reception. It will affect the way we're going to schedule patients. It will affect our infection protocol and the way we're going to turn around these surgeries, all right? Some of the screens being put here and there, okay? It's going to affect the way we even collect money. It's going to affect the way we look at our businesses. And I talked about the fact that we need to take more control of our business by guiding, you know, what we want to see on the schedule more than ever, all right? So it's going to affect, you know, what we used to do for our patients. We used to propose things to our patients versus what they used to propose. So that's the balance that we need to look at. So it's everything all put together that will enable us, you know, navigate through this. So let's keep in mind, you know, everything that we have shared here today. So as, you know, Dr. Amy, as I said, passionate about looking at the business, growing the business side of, you know, through the mastermind that we're building. But we want every dentist to look at what he can do. And everybody has skills, and we need these skills to make an impact in our economy. We have very limited time. If you have any questions on the financial side, you know, please share them in the chat. We'll be able to share them. If you have questions with Dr. Enoma, we'll be able to share them. But one thing that Wale has said, you know, was more about what is it that we need to do to reach out, all right? Let's not go in fear mode. Let's optimize. This is the time for you to even spend more on marketing. You don't have that money, you don't have the patient, but this is the time for you to optimize more. It is said that when the shares are at the lowest, that's the time to buy more, all right? So this is the mindset that we're asking everybody to have, and use your skills to be able to make an impact, you know, and be creative at what can work for you and what you can change in your environment. So I thank all the speakers, you know, who have joined us. Dr. Enoma, thank you very much for reminding us about how, you know, as dentists, we spend so many years in dental school, and we should look at ourselves as being one of the most educated, you know, professionals in our environment. Let's use those skills and leverage on partnerships. And thank you very much, Mr. Wale, for bringing the financial aspect and reminding us that we need to know our numbers if we want to remain standing. You have to have data.
Thank you.
Right? We have to have data. Thank you for reminding us.
Thank you, Dr. Amy. Thank you.
Everything. Thank you very much. So for those who have joined us from several locations, we thank you. All right. Thank you, Aisha. I hope that you have some tools to be able to get your banker, you know, to see you differently. And that's the whole idea. Okay. Let's see some questions. Okay. Thank you very much for this. We look forward to the mastermind. Yes. There's a lot of content that will be there from how to handle patients and how to take control of our business. All right. So we look forward to the mastermind. Thank you very much. I would like to appreciate senior colleagues that have joined as well. All right. I think the meeting is over, but some people are still joining. We'll still let them in. But this is something that we will continue doing. We may work on giving a little bit more space now that everybody will be going out. But it's important, again, that we give the opportunity for the association or some task force group that come together so we can come up with putting more structure in guiding us in running our businesses right here in Nigeria. And of course, we could learn from other colleagues across Africa and beyond, okay? Across Africa and beyond. So thank you very much. As I said, we don't just have people who have joined just from Nigeria. We've had Uganda present, we had Rwanda present as well. So it's important that whatever works for us, oh, we have Bambush, I think he's from Algeria. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much for joining. Okay, so that is, that concludes our webinar for today. And the takeaway for me is the fact that as we are, navigating during this pandemic, just remember that what we need most, more than ever, is really that human face. If you think you're suffering, look at the person in front of you and know that he's probably going through worse. Look at your patient and be as human as possible. Yes, we need the money, but it's time for us to bring that humanity ahead. The second part is technology. If you have not known Zoom, now you are forced to know Zoom, okay? But beyond that, how can we apply technology in our dental practices? This is one thing that has helped us, and I have to speak from experience, and it's one thing that will help us to stay ahead. Because now we are open. The first day we can go doing crowns and delivering crowns because we have, the opportunity to mill with the CEREC machine, our crowns, design, mill, and bond same day. You do not want to depend on the outside world. And this is what technology can do for us. So if we use our skills, combined with technology, there's so much that we can do within, the space of Nigeria, the space of even our practices. Having a 3D printer, just like we invested on, enables us with a CA Smart software to do our own aligners. So which means that for orthodontics, it was said in the last orthodontic webinar that aligners, are the COVID-free, appliances. Because I had emergencies from orthodontic patients having pokey wires, etc. But those who are on aligners, what they needed most was, oh, can I have my additional aligners? And we could even ship it to them, or they pick it from the gate. Done. So we need to be creative because this pandemic has come. Something else can come again. So don't think about it, oh, when it's over. When it's over, something else may come. So think about the new model, not just as something that is temporary. All right? Of course, you need to put some measures in place quickly if you are open this week, quickly. All right? But keep in mind some permanent measures because if it's not COVID-19, it will be something else. And you want to be prepared. We all should learn from this. Like Einstein says, in every crisis lies opportunities. What are the things that you have picked from here? Thank you very much for spending this time together. And we look forward to sharing, more things as we go. Stay safe if you have opened. If you have not opened, take time, to prepare yourself. Don't worry. Patients will be there. Production will be there, all right? What matters is you. What matters is you. So on this note, remember, be human, use technology, and stay safe. Until then, I look forward to the next webinar or the mastermind with Ask Dr. Amy. And thank you again, Wale, for being here. All right, thank you to all the participants. Thank you for being here. It's 18:13. Oops, we've gone past by 13 minutes. All right, so next time it's actually going to be even much shorter because we want crisp and short interaction. But this was good. There was a lot to share. And thank you for staying all the way. All right, bye-bye for now from my end. Thank you, Wale. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend and a great evening. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's bye from me. Thank you, Amitush, from logging in all the way from Algeria. Thank you. Thank you, Catherine, for your questions. I think Catherine is also from Uganda. Thank you, Mr. Femi, who is a partner with, who is the partner at Wyze. Dr. Leshi, thank you for being there. Thank you to all my orthodontic colleagues. Thank you to Smile360 team. I could see you. Thank you, Dr. Aluko, who shared great content on how we can work as orthodontists. And I'm glad with you that we don't need rubber dam for ortho. That cannot work. Thank you, Dr. Shadari, for being here from day one. Thank you very much to everyone who has joined. All right, so on that note, is bye for me. Bye in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you very much and stay safe.